My parents gave my sister $100,000 for a house, then looked at me and said, "You're the failure." No whisper. No hesitation. Just a verdict dropped between bites of pot roast. Like it was weather, like it was obvious. My fork slipped against the plate when they said it. The sound was sharp, louder than the silence that followed. My brother-in-law raised his glass, already smiling, already moving on. My mom's mouth curved into that familiar normalized smile. The one that said this was fine, this was love, this was family. I stood up, no one stopped me. No one asked where I was going. The chair legs scraped, the room breathed out, and that was it. I walked out with my coat still on the hook, my keys still on the counter, and the strange calm that comes when something finally breaks clean. 2 years later, they learned what silence can build, and what it can destroy. Before I tell you the rest, pause for a second. Tell me where you're listening from so I know I'm not alone in this. And when you're done hearing my story, tell me honestly. What would you have done in my place? From the outside, we were the perfect family. Matching Christmas sweaters, church photos with practiced smiles, neighbors who said things like, "You're so lucky." What they didn't see was who ironed those sweaters, who washed the dishes, who stayed quiet to keep the peace. That was me, Eva, the steady one, fixer, the invisible glue holding everything together while everyone else got to shine, and why Sister Veronica lived in highlights. Straight A's announced at the dinner table like press releases. Homecoming crown photos framed and reframed. A UCLA scholarship that turned into a parade of congratulatory casseroles and red carpet award ceremonies where my parents learned how to brag gracefully. I lived in the margins. B's that earned a tight smile and, "You're not applying yourself." An art club presidency waved away as cute. Praise but never pride. The inequality wasn't subtle. When Veronica turned 16, there was a shiny blue car in the driveway with a bow so big it looked like a joke. When I turned 16, we went to Applebee's. I got a $50 gift card and a lecture about gratitude while my mom straightened my hair for photos. There's a picture on the mantle from that night. Veronica glowing. My parents beaming. Me blinking, caught mid-moment. Proof that I existed, just not how it felt. College was where the quiet turned sharp. Veronica's tuition was fully funded. Mine wasn't funded at all. I remember my dad carving roast beef the night they told me, slicing it carefully, like a judge handing down a sentence. My mom added the soft violence afterward. "State schools are for students who didn't aim high enough." I swallowed both sentences whole. Student loans at 6.8% interest became my constant companion. Every dollar felt like a bruise. I worked 2 jobs, library shifts before sunrise, diner shifts that ended with my feet burning and my hands cracked open from winter air and cheap soap. I learned how to study standing up because sitting meant falling asleep. I learned how to smile when customers snapped their fingers at me. Survival mode rewires you like that. When I got pneumonia, I called home because I thought, stupidly, that being sick might qualify as an exception. My dad told me I needed better time management. My mom asked if I was taking my vitamins. I hung up and stared at my phone until the screen dimmed, the glow fading like proof that I'd imagined the warmth. The first real kindness came from someone who wasn't supposed to matter. Mrs. Chen, my neighbor down the hall, knocked one evening. She handed me soup and an envelope without asking questions. Inside was a $500 check and a note that said, "You're not alone." It wasn't the amount that broke me. It was the kindness. I cried until the soup went cold, then cried again because someone had noticed. From then on, I learned to watch who showed up. Therapy would later give it a name: protective expectations. I started planning for absence because it was safer than hoping. Graduation came and went without my parents in the crowd. Other families had bouquets and cameras and loud love. I held my degree in my hands and whispered, "I made it anyway." On the bus ride home, my diploma pressed against my chest. My phone buzzed with Veronica's engagement ring post. Dreams do come true. I liked it. Then I turned off notifications. Deep down, I already knew the truth. Dreams did come true. Just not the ones they planned for me. Life got quieter after graduation, but not in a peaceful way. It was the kind of quiet that lingers after a fire. When the house is still standing, the walls look intact, but everything inside smells like smoke and loss. I moved into a one-bedroom apartment above a laundromat, where the low, constant hum of dryers replaced small talk, family dinners, and the sound of my name spoken with affection. Socks thumped against metal drums downstairs while I learned how to exist without witnesses. I landed a junior designer job that paid just enough to feel like progress. I saved every paycheck like it was evidence, proof I could survive without them. Rent paid on time. Groceries bought without help. Health insurance I chose myself. I told myself I was fine. Independent. Unbothered. I said it so often it started to sound rehearsed, like a line I'd memorized instead of a truth I felt. Every night, my body betrayed me at the same hour. 3 a.m. I'd wake up with my heart racing, the room dark except for my phone lighting up my face. I'd scroll without thinking, muscle memory taking over. Sunday dinners crowded around tables I used to set. Veronica's bridal shower. Pink balloons, champagne flutes, my mother's hand on her shoulder like a claim. Beach vacations. Ski trips. Group photos where my absence felt less like an accident and more like a design choice. Their smiles looked permanent. My absence looked intentional. The wedding invitation didn't even come from them. It arrived as an automated email from an event planner. Subject line in gold cursive. Like elegance could be mass-produced. My name was spelled wrong. I stared at the screen for a full minute, not angry, not surprised, just empty. Then I closed the laptop. That was the night I booked my first therapy session. As if my body had finally found the lever and pulled it. Dr. Singh's office smelled faintly of tea and clean paper. She had kind eyes and a voice like calm water, the kind that didn't rush you toward conclusions. I told her about love that came with conditions. Approval that felt like oxygen I had to earn every single day. I talked about being good, being useful, being quiet enough to deserve staying. She listened, nodded once, then asked a question so simple it felt dangerous. Have you ever tried not performing for it? The sentence followed me home. It echoed while I brushed my teeth, while I folded laundry, while I answered emails at work. Not performing. The idea felt rebellious, almost reckless, like stepping off a curb without checking traffic. The voicemail started after the wedding RSVP deadline passed. My mom's voice was soft, practiced. Call us back, honey. Don't be stubborn. I didn't respond. Days turned into weeks. In therapy, Dr. Singh gave me a phrase to hold on to. Boundaries are not walls. They're doors you control. I practiced saying no in the mirror. The word awkward at first, then steadier. Foreign. Almost dangerous. Like I was handling something sharp. My first Christmas alone arrived without ceremony. No gifts under the tree because there was no tree. No text sent, no explanations offered. The guilt hit on day 1, thick and familiar. Day 2 felt lighter, like a headache fading. By day 3, I realized I could breathe without asking permission. The quiet wasn't empty anymore. It was mine. Veronica's wedding flooded social media anyway. Lace gown. Beaming parents. The caption read, "Family forever." I watched from my tiny balcony. City noise rising up in waves. My coffee gone cold in my hands. A bee hovered over a dying plant on the railing, circled once, then moved on. Even bees know where not to land. My mom followed up with another message. "You're making this harder than it needs to be." I deleted it without listening twice and turned off my ringer. I sat by the window that night and let the quiet fill the space they used to occupy, so I stopped calling them. No text, no visits, no explanations. Silence became my new language. Cold, steady, deliberate. And I didn't know it then, but that silence would become the loudest thing I'd ever build. The silence didn't fix everything. It didn't suddenly make me whole or fearless or free. But it did something quieter and more dangerous. It gave me room to see the cracks. Without their voices filling every space, I could finally hear my own. First it was faint, out-shape, but it was mine. My days found a rhythm. Sketches spread across my desk. Deadlines that didn't yell, just waited. Late-night coffee cooling beside my keyboard while the city slept. I wasn't thriving yet, but I wasn't breaking either. Every client project that paid my bills felt like another ounce of proof stacked carefully in my hands. Proof that I could live without their permission. Proof that my life didn't collapse just because they weren't supervising it. Still, the ache lingered. Holidays were the worst. They felt like standing outside a window, watching warmth I didn't deserve spill across someone else's living room. Laughter I wasn't part of. Traditions that continued just fine without me. I told myself it didn't matter, but my chest knew better. In February, pneumonia came back like a bad memory. The urgent care lights buzzed overhead, too white, too bright. Machines beeped in uneven rhythms while I shivered under a paper-thin blanket. My hands shook as I unlocked my phone. My thumb hovered over Mom, just inches away. Muscle memory begging for one more chance. For one different outcome that I stared at the screen until my eyes burned. Then I turned it off. I didn't need another lesson in disappointment. When I got home, there was a note taped to my door. 3 words written in careful ink. Soup inside. Then I found the thermos waiting on my counter, still warm. No questions, no advice, just nourishment and permission to rest. Her kindness hit harder than any apology I'd ever begged for. It didn't ask me to explain myself. It didn't require forgiveness. It just showed up. By spring, something in me shifted. I could feel it in my bones. Restless, impatient. In therapy, the words finally landed. I said them out loud and surprised myself with how true they sounded. I was tired of surviving. I wanted to build. That night, I opened listings for cheap land up north. Far enough away to hear myself think. Places most people scrolled past without stopping. The kind of land no one fought over because no one believed in it. The kind of place no one could take from me. I found it on a rainy Tuesday. 40 acres of neglected soil and a house with more holes than windows. The roof sagged. The siding groaned in the wind. The realtor talked fast, already apologizing. Everyone else saw a wreck. I saw possibility. I signed the papers with hands that shook. Not from fear, but from the weight of choosing myself. The beginnings were brutal. No heat, no Wi-Fi. Wind rattling the siding at night like it was trying to get in. I learned fast or froze. I sealed drafts with plastic and duct tape. Patched drywall using YouTube tutorials and stubbornness. Bought bees without knowing if I was ready. Then learned how to keep them alive through the cold. For the first time in my life, every failure was mine to fix. No one to blame. No one to impress. Just consequences and choice. One morning, a man appeared across the ridge with a thermos and a grin. His name was Tom. He looked at the house, then at me, then asked, "You working the land or letting it work you?" I laughed. Actually laughed, for the first time in months. The sound surprised both of us. Weekends became rituals. Mud on my hands, sawdust in my hair, sunburn creeping up my neck. I planted lavender in long, careful rows, not because it was profitable yet, but because it was patient. Weeks passed before anything showed. Then one morning, there they were, shy green shoots pushing through stubborn dirt. Proof that effort could turn into life if you stayed long enough. I kept journals. Logged every mistake, every repair, every bloom. Pages filled slowly like evidence. Like a record of rebirth written in dirt and ink. One night, I stood in the doorway of the half-finished farmhouse. The full moon hung over the fields, pale and steady. My breath fogged in the cold, and something inside me finally settled. For years I'd begged for belonging, for approval, for a seat at a table that never wanted me. Now I was building it with my own hands. I hadn't just gone silent, I'd gone sovereign. Spring came all at once. Lavender bloomed in wide, uneven rows. Soft purple waves brushing the wind like they'd always belonged there. The bees returned too. Steady, loyal, moving with purpose from plant to plant. I'd learned their patterns by then. The way they circled before landing. The way they never wasted energy where nothing could grow. The silence finally sounded different. Less empty. More earned. I didn't know it then. But that peace was about to be interrupted. The first contact came as a text from an unknown number. "Ava, is this really your place?" I didn't answer. I wiped dirt off my hands, watched the horizon instead. 2 hours later, my phone rang. My dad's name lit up the screen, casual as ever, like we'd spoken yesterday. Like nothing had ever broken. "Your sister drove past a property in Soma today," he said, voice smooth, almost amused. "Big field. Tin roof. Lavender everywhere. Is that yours?" I looked out at the land, at the work, the quiet, the life I'd built from nothing. Then I called him back. "It is." There was a pause. I could hear him searching for the right tone, the one that usually worked. "That's impressive. We didn't know you were doing so well. Maybe we can help you expand. Have contacts. Investors." "No, Dad. You had your chance." He laughed low and patronizing. "Don't be stubborn. We're family." Family. The word felt thin in his mouth. "Family doesn't call you a failure and fund your replacement," I said, and hung up before he could answer. The email came the next day. Subject line: investment proposal. I archived it without opening. A week passed. The lavender kept growing, unbothered. Then a courier pulled up and handed me a manila envelope. Inside was a personal check for $100,000. The memo line read, "For your college MY." Mom's note was looped and careful. "We were too hard on you. This is our way of making things right." That I sat with it for 10 minutes. No tears. No shaking hands. Just quiet. Then I got the scissors and cut the check into clean strips, thin as confetti. I slid them back into the envelope and wrote one sentence in blue ink. "You can't buy forgiveness." I mailed it back certified. 3 days later, my cameras caught my dad at the gate. Khakis pressed, shoes polished, weekend face rehearsed. He waved at the lens like I was still that child waiting for his approval. When I answered the intercom, his voice cracked. "I just need 5 minutes," he said. "I was wrong, Ava. Please." "You had 26 years to talk," I replied. "You used them poorly." He tried authority next. "We're your parents. We made mistakes, but parents get access." "Access is earned," I said. "Not presumed. And not purchased." His eyes were red at the edges when he said it. "Forgive us." "I can," I answered and meant it. "But forgiveness isn't reconciliation." I watched the gate close from the monitor, the motor hum, the panels meeting in the middle, cutting the view cleanly in half. The camera blinked and went still. I logged the visit in my notebook. Weather. Evidence beats memory when storms return. That night, I watched the footage again. I saw him unsure what to do without power. I saw myself not flinch. Peace, I realized, isn't earned through apologies. It's protected by boundaries. A week later, another envelope arrived. Same amount. Voided this time. A gesture of surrender, maybe. Or guilt. I shredded it without fully opening it. Veronica came next. She didn't drive in. Her car idled at the end of the road, her face small behind the glass. She held her phone up like she was recording, maybe proof for our parents that I existed outside their story. I didn't wave. I didn't move. I let her look. The appraisal call came after that. My dad again trying a new angle. "Your sister says the property's worth over $2 million. Is that true?" "That's what the appraisal says." "You can't manage all that alone," he said quickly. "Let us help you grow it. You'll need experience. Real guidance this time." I remembered every lecture, every withheld check, every smirk that followed my effort. I remembered the girl I'd been, the one who begged for a seat at their table. "No," I said, steady as the ground beneath me. No is a sentence. For the first time there was no guilt in the word. Only gravity. I hung up. Outside, the fields hummed with bees. The wind carried lavender through the open windows. Somewhere down the road, a car engine started, then faded away. That night, after the last call ended and the house finally settled, I grabbed a flashlight and walked the perimeter. The beam cut a narrow path through the dark as I followed the fence line, step by deliberate step. Each post stood firm. Each wire pulled tight. Boundaries made visible. Not just wood and metal, decisions held. I ran my hand along the fence and felt the steadiness of it. The quiet promise that this line meant something. They had called me a failure. But failure had built something that outlasted their approval. 2 years of silence had turned into soil, into roots, into bloom. Under the moonlight, it hit me with a strange calm. They'd been right about one thing all along. I wasn't part of their world anymore. I'd built my own. Summer came hot and full, the kind of heat that hums through everything and makes even the air feel alive. The lavender rose to my waist, thick and fragrant, waves of purple stretching farther than I'd dared to imagine that first winter. Harvest week turned the fields into motion. Emma and Tyler moved down the rows with practiced cuts, stems falling into neat bundles. Their laughter spilled through the air, light and unguarded. It filled spaces where guilt used to live. We packed boxes late into the evening, barn doors open, cicadas loud in the trees. My hands smelled like lavender no matter how many times I washed them. The work was honest and tiring and deeply mine. At dawn, the first big order rolled out. 6 figures worth, tires crunching down the dirt road. I watched the truck disappear until the dust settled. Something unclenched inside me. For the first time in my life, everything that supported me was something I had built. I started a gratitude ritual then. Care boxes went out to the people who showed up when they didn't have to. Mrs. Chen received lavender soap and honey with a note that said, "Thank you for staying." Dr. Singh got a bundle and a card that read, "For giving me language." Tom, now permanently involved in irrigation and bad jokes, got a bottle of oil and a handwritten "Couldn't have done this without you." One afternoon, I found an old family photo wedged in a book. All of us smiling in perfect formation. My younger self stood frozen at the edge of the frame, half in shadow. I traced that face with my thumb and whispered, "You made it out." Outside, the farm hummed, alive, honest. The gates stayed closed, but my world had never been more open. They had given her a house. I had built an entire life. And peace, real peace, was the only inheritance I ever needed. They called it rebellion. I called it recovery. If you've ever had to choose peace over permission, you'll understand what came next. There are more stories like mine, about family betrayal and the quiet kind of revenge. Stay with me. Watch the next story in the playlist. You're not alone.